The movie opens with two Air Force pilots flying across a deadly zone known as Devil Sea Island, also called the Sea of the Dragon Triangle. One pilot hears a strange noise outside, but his partner brushes it off. Suddenly, a bizarre bird slams into their aircraft, throwing it off balance. Before they can react, a whole flock of these strange creatures begins crashing into the plane, forcing both men to eject with parachutes. One lands safely on the island, while the other is about to hit the ocean when a massive crocodile erupts from the water and swallows him whole. Back in the present, Flight GZ-261 is flying over the same cursed region. On board, Lin Hua jolts awake from sudden turbulence. Nearby, a pregnant woman sits with her husband, who keeps asking what they should name their baby. Lin goes looking for his daughter, Yi, who's sitting with her boyfriend Fong. Lin is furious she's kept the relationship secret, and the tension rises as he glares daggers at the boy. Before they can argue, another violent jolt hits. The cabin depressurizes, and flight attendants shout for everyone to put on their oxygen masks. The pilots issue a mayday and try to lower the plane's altitude. But once again, the aircraft crosses paths with the same strange birds. They smash into the plane, knocking it off control. Lin, who isn't wearing a seatbelt, is thrown around the cabin as he desperately tries to hold on. The plane's horizontal stabilizer fails, and the pilots struggle to guide the aircraft toward the sea. A section of the fuselage tears open, pulling several passengers out. Lin forces his way through the chaos, grabs Yi, and secures her just moments before the plane hits the water. They think they've survived, until the wrecked aircraft slams into a massive rock, shearing off the cockpit and killing both pilots instantly. Lin regains consciousness and drags his daughter to the shore. A handful of passengers have also made it, some injured, some in shock. As Yi reunites with Fong, Lin angrily separates them again, pushing Yi to storm off. One of the survivors, a social media influencer, tries filming the situation, but there's no signal, the radio is destroyed, and panic begins to spread. Lin attempts to calm the group, explaining that they've crashed within the Dragon Triangle, and all they can do is hope rescue teams locate their final coordinates. A short while later, Lin, Fong, and another passenger head inland to look for supplies. Lin questions Fong, still suspicious of his intentions with Yi. Their search suddenly turns grim when they discover giant crocodile tracks in the mud. Back at the shore, a passenger wades into the water to retrieve his belongings, only to be silently yanked underwater by the crocodile. Nearby, the pregnant woman talks with Yi, who reveals she recently lost her mother. She and Lin were returning from the funeral in Australia when the crash happened. Deeper in the forest, Fong finally admits that he and Yi have been together for over a year, information that shocks Lin. Moments later, they discover an old, abandoned military cabin. Inside are crates of bullets, grenades, knives, and a notebook left behind by a World War II pilot. From the notes, they learn about the giant crocodile terrorizing the island. Realizing the danger, they rush back to warn the others. Back at the shore, tensions explode when a selfish passenger tries to stop a flight attendant from giving resources to a dying survivor, claiming they should keep the supplies for themselves. The pregnant woman's husband, Ji, intervenes, and a fight breaks out. As the men grapple closer to the water, none of them notice the crocodile slowly crawling out of the sea toward them. The woman rushes in and drags her husband away, but one of the passengers stumbles and falls into the water. Before anyone realizes the crocodile is approaching, the man who fell in is already attacked and devoured. Panic erupts, and the remaining passengers flee into the woods. The crocodile bursts out of the sea and snatches the last person trying to escape. By the time Lin, Fong, and the other passenger arrive, the crocodile has already attacked. Everyone is gone. The three hurry into the forest to search for survivors. Deeper inside, the flight attendant trips and falls, and the crocodile quickly catches up to her and attacks. The others keep running until they reach a rocky area with a shallow pool of water and finally stop to rest. Ji promises his pregnant wife that he'll never leave her again. As they clean themselves up, Lin, Fong, and their companion manage to find the group and reunite. Fong tells Yi about the cabin they discovered and the supplies inside. But the crocodile is still nearby. Blood from an injured passenger begins dripping onto the ground, signaling danger. Before anyone can warn him, the scent awakens the crocodile. It lunges out from hiding and devours the bleeding man. The survivors scatter again as the crocodile gives chase. It nearly catches Lin, but he narrowly dodges. The group races through the woods and eventually reaches the cabin. With 7 survivors left, they decide to take shelter there for the night. Later, Yi gives her father a bullet, and with Fong's help, Lin uses it to treat his injury. That night, they all share the last of the food scavenged from the plane. Tension sparks when Lin confronts Yi about smoking. She snaps back, telling him he hasn't been in her life since her mother died, and now he suddenly wants to control her. Hurt and angry, Yi walks away. The argument affects everyone, and they leave Lin alone except for one passenger who stays behind to advise him on how to talk to his daughter. Suddenly, a human skeleton collapses from above. Examining it, Lin realizes it must belong to the man who wrote the notebook, the one who never escaped the island. With that grim discovery, Lin insists they must find a way off the island soon or risk starving to death. The next morning, Lin heads out to search for food. Elsewhere on the island, two passengers wander through the forest. One keeps recording videos for rescue, but her phone finally dies. She accidentally steps onto some slimy green substance, slips, and falls into a small cave, getting covered in the strange slime. Not knowing what it is, the two quickly leave. Back at the cabin, Yi and Fong wake up to thick fog and giant spiders surrounding the cabin with webs. They wake the others quietly and warn them. Trying not to alert the spiders, they decide to sneak out. They gather their belongings carefully and move slowly through the webs. One man gets caught, but silently removes his jacket and frees himself. But when he tries to escape, he accidentally wakes a spider and is instantly killed. The rest run for their lives. Lin hears their screams while collecting fruit and rushes toward them. One giant spider has already reached the group and attacks. They dodge desperately, and one passenger throws a stone to distract it, causing the spider to turn and chase him instead. More spiders emerge from the fog and begin pursuing the others. The group hides behind a tree, unaware they're surrounded. As the fog clears, they realize the spiders have encircled them completely. Lin arrives just in time. Seeing the danger, he jumps out and distracts the spiders, drawing them toward him. He throws containers to lure them in another direction, then hides behind the cabin. But another giant spider waits on the roof. Lin enters the cabin with one survivor, but the spider drops in, attacking and killing the man instantly. Lin battles the spider, manages to snap off one of its legs, and grabs it. The spider keeps attacking, forcing Lin to dodge wildly until he finally crashes through the cabin wall. Lin runs off and detonates an explosive, blasting the giant spider and forcing it to retreat. Meanwhile, the other survivors arrive at a small river they can cross. Just as they're about to step over, a crocodile bursts from the water and charges. Fong is still on the opposite side when Lin appears just in time, shoving him out of the way. As the crocodile lunges at Lin, he leaps into a tree. The creature misses, splashes back into the river, and swims away. Lin crosses safely and finally reunites with Yi and the remaining survivors. Elsewhere on the island, two other survivors, a man and a woman, discover the same river. Excited to see fresh water, they begin washing up. When the woman bends down, the man removes his clothes and tries to force himself on her. She refuses, but he keeps pushing. Unbeknownst to them, the crocodile is already swimming toward them. The man feels a sudden sharp pain in his chest and tries to walk away, but the crocodile reaches the woman first and attacks. She screams for help, but the man shoves her aside and runs for his life as the crocodile lunges and devours her. Meanwhile, the remaining group reaches the crash site of an old World War II carrier. They find a crate filled with broken radio parts, pieces Fong believes he can repair. Another survivor discovers a gun. Fong fixes the radio, and they manage to make contact with a rescue team. Then they move towards the pickup point and reunite with a single survivor who escaped the river attack on their way. Only 6 survivors remain. The group arrives at another wide river they must swim across. Because the pregnant woman can't swim, they build a small makeshift raft for her. Lin decides to cross first so he can pull them over. After he reaches the opposite side, the others enter the water, guiding the raft forward. Halfway across, their splashing awakens a giant crocodile lurking beneath the surface. Chaos erupts as everyone swims for their lives. Yi and Fong barely make it across. The pregnant woman's husband swims as fast as he can, sacrificing himself to push his wife safely to shore. Just as she reaches solid ground, the crocodile bursts out and devours him. The last surviving swimmer manages to escape, leaving only 5 survivors. Lin opens fire as the crocodile approaches again. The creature explodes out of the river and charges the group. Lin dodges aside while it barrels past him, focused on the others. One survivor trips, and E tries to help him, but the man throws her toward the crocodile to save himself. As the beast lunges at her, Lin arrives and shoots, giving E time to run and hide. During the gunfight, one fleeing survivor is accidentally struck by Lin's bullet and collapses. The crocodile seizes the moment, sweeping E aside with its tail and dragging the wounded man before devouring him. Lin searches desperately for his daughter until nightfall. He eventually arrives at a cave where Fong and the pregnant woman meets up with him since they're the final survivors. Inside, Lin moves quietly, calling for E. The pregnant woman breaks down when she finds the remains of her husband. Finally, Lin finds the giant crocodile asleep deeper inside the cave. He and Fong use the moment to look for Yi. Weak, bloody, and exhausted, Yi awakes and reunites with her father and Fong. But before they can escape, the crocodile wakes up and attacks. Lin opens fire to draw its attention, giving Fong time to carry Yi out of the cave. The creature chases Lin through narrow caverns until it slams into him, knocking a bomb from his hand. Fong reaches Yi and the pregnant woman outside, but decides to go back and help Lin. Inside, Lin tries to kill the crocodile with gunfire, but he runs out of bullets. Fong rushes in as Lin shouts for him to find the missing grenade. Fong searches the ground, finds it, and distracts the crocodile. The monster turns and charges after him. Fong hides behind a rock, pulls the pin, and throws the grenade. The explosion weakens the beast, knocking it to the ground. Lin and Fong regroup, finally accepting each other. Lin thanks him. Just as they turn to leave, the crocodile suddenly jolts awake and lunges again. Lin grabs a fallen knife and slices deep under its jaw, finally killing the monster. They exit the cave and reunite with Yi and the pregnant woman. As the last surviving members, they head toward the shore. Minutes later, the rescue team arrives. The movie ends. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more recaps.